Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss some of the questions that were asked from a social linguistics portion in UGC NET examination 2020. Question number 1 is, which of the following are true for elite closure? Before we move on to the options, let us first understand what is elite closure. See, in every speech community, people speak different languages or different dialects of a single language. The dialect used by elite community becomes the official one. Thus, the highly educated people or the elite group adopt this dialect. So, the elite community or the people in power use this prestigious dialect to mobilize the society and restrict the non-elite communities to reach higher positions or socio-economic developments in the society. They do this by ascribing negative values to non-prestigious language or dialect. So a gap develops between an elite and non-elite groups. The elite community does this just to control the socio-economic and linguistic scenario of their society, and they stop the non-elite groups to reach the higher positions in their society. So coming back to the question, which of the following are true for elite closure? So option number first is true, that people with power use language to reproduce their privileged positions. They want to retain their positions in the society. Option number first is second. And option number C is also second because it was Myers Scotton who first used this concept in her study in Africa, where she was studying the colonial language spoken by the minority of the population over there. Option number second is wrong. People without power shun the language of privileged classes. So it is wrong. Labor used this concept in his work in New York departmental store. This option is also wrong because Labor did not use this concept. What Labor did was, his work was about how rhodicity in New York became an important indicator of social status. He noticed that people in casual communication did not pronounce R sound, but when they were asked to read a word list, being conscious, they, the readers pronounced R sound every time in the word. So he concluded that rhoticity is linked to the higher class status in New York. So option number D is irrelevant in this context. Option number E, elite closure acts as an effective gatekeeping measure. Of course, it acts as an effective gatekeeping measure because we know that this elite closure develops a gap between elite and non-elite groups. So option number A, C, and E will follow. A, C, and E. Okay. Moving on to the question number second. Brown's 1973 statement on the order of acquisition of certain grammatical morphemes in English primarily revealed that children acquire morpheme in different orders. This is correct. Children acquire morpheme at different rates. So both of the options are correct. Brown came to the conclusion that children do not acquire language all at once, but they acquire morphemes in different levels and orders. There may be a change in the rate of acquisition, depends on the capacity of a child, but the acquisition order is universal. So the acquisition order of morphemes in a language is given here in the table. Moving on to the question number third. Which of the following are true for Creoloid? Creoloid is a language that resembles to Creole, but it never goes through a pidgin stage. So what is the difference between Creole and Creoloid? Creole versus Creoloid. Creole comes into existence through the process of pidgin formation, but Creoloid has no pidgin stage. It comes into existence from the transference of features into the standard language from the language of several ethnic groups. That is the first difference. The another difference is Creole language, when at its pidgin stage, has no native speakers. But Creolide language hazy native speakers available the moment it comes into existence. There are many other features available here. You can read the list. So, it is a variety of language. It is not a process of Creole formation, but it bears linguistic resemblance to Creole. It lacks the history of origin in a pidgin language, and it may or may not have a strong tradition of use by native speakers. The correct option is A, C, D, E. The example of Creolite language is Singlish, spoken in Singapore. Moving on to the question number 4. Statement 1. Micro-sociolinguistics investigates how social structure influences the way people talk and how language varieties and patterns of use correlates with social attributes like class, gender, age, etc. Statement 1 is correct because micro-social linguistics focus on the dialect and stylistic variation, that is phonological difference between dialects, discourse variation between male and female, etc. So the option number first is correct. The statement number second is macro-social linguistics studies what societies do with their language, that is attitudes and attachments that account for the functional distribution of speech forms in society. That is also true because we know macro social linguistics looks at the behavior of the entire speech community, like it studies the issue of how social identity affects language choice and what is the attitude of a speech community towards their language. So both of these statements are correct. Moving on to the question number 5. The term wherein speakers are seen proactively designing their speech to the needs of a particular audience and encapsulation of the presumed motive for the behavior is. It is audience design. This concept was given by Alan Bell. Alan Bell in 1984. Audience design means that the speaker designs his or her speech as per the audience he is speaking to. I mean, the age group, the socio-educational and economic background of the audience is taken into consideration by the speaker at the time of delivering the speech. So, the correct option is option number 4. Moving on to the question number 6. Match the following. Martha's Vineyard study is related to William Labov. William Labov explained how social motivation causes sound change. He notes that the centralization pattern of diphthonging varied according to the age group at his place of investigation. They used this as a mark of protest to maintain their social identity as vineyards. Oberwart study is related to Susan Gall. Susan Gall's research was about language shift. She concluded that language shift is not simply because of the urbanization or large-scale social change, but the shift is essentially a symbolic change correlated with the changing relative status of the value system, which language symbolizes. The research was conducted in Oberwart, Austria. Cooperworth study is related to Gompers and Wilson. The study was about how the religion and regional identity affects the language choice. The study was carried out in Cooper at the Maharashtra and Karnataka border. And the Norwich study is related to Peter Trudgill. It was a sociolinguistic investigation into the effects of social class on language use. He noticed that people of higher social class tend to be careful in their speech. Means higher class use prestige varieties while the lower class use non-standard forms. For example, higher class pronounce words like walking, talking, sleeping, while lower class speakers drop the g sound, pronouncing it like walking, talking, going. In the same way, the men preferred non-standard varieties while the women preferred standard varieties of the language at his place of investigation in Norwich. So the option number 3 will follow. So this is all about social linguistic questions asked in UGC Net. I will be uploading videos on other topics also, so stay connected and do subscribe my channel.